Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals, about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and Gisele Bundchen and Tom Brady. We end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 136. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra, I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So we're going to have one more episode out next week, and then we'll be off on October 22nd.
Nice.
Yes. So I have that puppy. I took him to the doggy daycare for the first time Monday because he'd had his third set of shots, so he was eligible. And he did not do well. When I came in there, I heard him howling, and I was like, oh my God, I felt so much guilt. But they said he wasn't doing that all day, but that he wouldn't play. They put him with one other dog, an Australian Shepherd, and I have a German Shepherd, if you didn't hear that episode, and he didn't play with him. He's not comfortable.
I've never had a dog who was, like, really good with other dogs. Oh. I feel like it's a very modern thing that, like, your dog is supposed to get along well with all the doggy daycare people. I don't think most dogs are really like that. And, like, the dog whisperer, Cesar Millan, he's always talking about, oh, your dog should be totally, like, passive with other dogs. I've never known a dog like that.
Like, I've watched a few of those, and my mom was trying to get me to watch them, too. They make me think I should buy a treadmill for my dog. Like, this...
Yeah, I mean,
do that a lot.
The dog whisperer's answer to everything is just make your dog so exhausted he won't fight you or do anything.
I've been doing that. Sometimes I look at my watch and I do like 9 miles a day. It's insane. But I want him not to bark at other dogs every time. And he's not at that point yet, so he's not going to doggy daycare. We didn't start the puppy kindergarten yet. We were supposed to, but they postponed it. I know. It's like doggy daycare, puppy kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's my new identity as dog mom.
Yeah. I've never done any of that for the 2 dogs that I've had in my lifetime.
Now that I have an empty house, you know, I need to do something with my dog. Put all my energy into him. Yeah. But he's a sweet boy. We're doing well together otherwise.
All right.
I've been watching 911. That's my show. It's so ridiculous. I love it. But other than that, I haven't been watching anything. I want to watch Interview with the Vampire. Zakiya was saying she loves that. So
the ads looked good. The ads for Interview with the Vampire look real good.
It's supposed to be really hot and to like put the other movie to shame.
I've just been watching Archer and Abbott Elementary. Those are like the only 2 shows I really give a shit about. I haven't started House of the Dragon, and I also haven't started The American Gigolo, which looked really good. And Rosie O'Donnell is in that.
Really? She's working still?
Yeah, as an actress still, yeah.
I'm surprised. I've been watching Abbott Elementary, but I only saw the first one because I didn't want to keep watching it because it goes by too fast. I like to save them for when I'm sad or something, and then I have something to do.
I won't ruin it for you, but there's this really wonderful like kind of subplot where one of the teachers always gets celebrities' names wrong.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, that was great.
That was so funny. Yeah.
Because that's so much what our job is like too. It's like, wasn't that which Michelle Williams, the white one or the black one?
Everyone was like, oh, she's got it right. That was cute. I saw that one. And I did watch House of the Dragon, but I only watched the first 3 before they switched to the new actresses. I'm 2 behind. And the women in our Zoom are watching it. I mean, everyone has strong feelings about it. That's the thing. I didn't like anybody, but I couldn't stop watching it. So I was like, when they switch to the new people, I'm going to stop. So, because all these terrible things happen and the people are awful. And the only people you like get murdered like right away. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Everything I've heard about the Dragon Show is that it makes me really grateful that we had the Starks to focus on throughout Game of Thrones because, you know, you just focus on, are the Starks going to make it through?
The people you like. There's nobody you're rooting for in this one. You're like, oh, everybody could fucking die. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Because it's just dragon people and it's.
Dragon people.
It's pure power. It's not survival. It's power.
Yeah. It's all right. I mean, I might go back to it, but there's other stuff I want to watch.
I've been reading this book, and it's
Ooh.
horrible. I'm like, I want to finish it just to see what the fuck is happening.
What is it called?
It's so bad. It's called Blackout.
Okay.
And it's like this new genre of women's fiction where every woman has to be an alcoholic, and it's like, make better decisions.
I hate that. That's why I couldn't watch The Flight Attendant, because I was an alcoholic, and watching women make terrible choices like that I can't do it.
And so she's in recovery when the story starts, but she just keeps making stupid decisions and drunk decisions.
Yeah.
It's like, get some real help and stop lying to everyone in your life. Anyway.
Yeah. So you're reading a book that's like, I'm watching House of the Dragon. All right, let's talk about the royals. So we're still getting stories from those royal biographies we talked about last week. And the best one is Valentine Lowe's Courtiers, The Hidden Power Behind the Throne.
Well, it's not the best one. It's just the one with more new information. Like, Katie Nichols' book is so fucking stale. She is barely giving any new information. Valentine Lowe, at least, you can feel that he actually talks to sources. And they're all, like, really nasty Kensington Palace sources.
Yeah.
But at least it's new information.
Yeah, so I guess the least terrible one.
The most newsworthy one. How about that?
Lowe wrote about the story that you covered at the time, where Meghan was smeared in March of 2021 for wearing earrings that were a wedding gift from the Saudi prince Mohammed bin Salman. She wore them after we heard that he ordered the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
No. So she wore them after Jamal Khashoggi was assassinated and beheaded.
Yes.
But no one knew when she wore them the first time that Mohammed bin Salman was the one who ordered the assassination.
Okay.
And then she wore them again, and that was like weeks later, and that was when you could arguably say maybe she knew that the hit had been ordered by bin Salman. But I also think that it's a tacky setup to say that they were exactly from the Crown Prince. I think with most of the jewelry given to Windsor women, it's from the entire Saudi royal family.
Okay.
So they're playing really fast and loose with that information about who the diamonds were from and what Meghan was told about who gave her the diamonds.
And it's true that there's question about whether she actually owned it or they were a loaner to her from the royal collection, correct?
Right. So if it was a wedding gift of that magnitude, huge diamond earrings worth easily a couple of $100,000, they would have just been part of the royal collection.
Okay.
They would have gone straight there. Meghan wouldn't have been able to own them herself. They were sending back fucking free candles. Of course she didn't own those earrings herself.
Yeah.
They were part of the royal collection as soon as they were gifted to her for her wedding. So obviously Angela Kelly, who was the Queen's dresser, loaned those out to Meghan specifically because they were supposed to be a wedding gift for her.
Yeah, and they might have loaned them to her to set her up for these negative stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wrote about that in March 2021, right before the Oprah interview, and then he just filled it out in the book.
Okay.
And even with more details, it's still extremely fuzzy. What's obvious is that the Courtiers want to make this a really nasty story about how Meghan is horrible for
wearing murderer diamonds. Yeah.
Yeah, wearing blood diamonds from the guy who assassinated Jamal Khashoggi. I just don't think that was what she was told.
Yeah, she didn't know. So we also had details from the new royals from Katie Nichols, and she rehashes a lot of the old stuff, like you were saying earlier. And she was mad. She said that the Royal Rota was mad at Prince Harry for keeping the news of Archie's birth a secret. And we've been hearing that for years.
Mm-hmm.
And for staging the photo op at Windsor Palace instead of outside the hospital. and just using one journalist and one photographer.
Yeah, and you can really tell that, like, Katie Nicholl is herself pissed off that she didn't get a photo and that she wasn't there to see baby Archie 2 seconds after he was born. Katie Nicholl totally divorces that from what Meghan herself said in the Oprah interview about how they weren't asked to do a posing with the baby outside of the hospital.
Yeah.
And Meghan was concerned about security. And they were already saying that Archie wouldn't have his own security. So I think she was just like, fuck these people.
Yeah.
You know, we're just going to do it at Windsor Castle. And, you know, of course, Harry wanted to keep it all secret.
I remember when he thanked the horses when he talked to everybody. I thought that was so cute. And she was doing her best. Like, she did a compromise that she's like, okay, let's do this way. You know, she really tried to be conciliatory, but that, of course, is never enough for them.
Right. And the fact that all these years later, they're still just so fucking pissed off that 2 first-time parents got some time away from the media to enjoy their baby.
Right after they had a baby.
The first hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just still so fucking mad about that.
And then my favorite article that you covered was today. It's Thursday when we record. Was the article about how staffers were mad at Meghan because she would send them stuff to do and expect them to actually do the job.
And like, she wants to be queen. No, she just gave you a job to do and she expected you to complete a task.
It was just like, she'd send us an email and expect us to get it done in a day or so. She doesn't understand that we don't work like that. Like, you don't work? Like...
And they can't admit that. They can't say, actually, we only want to work 2 or 3 hours a day and, you know, we don't want to complete tasks for our boss. We're lazy. They can't say that.
No.
So they're like, she's a bully because she expected us to do things.
We're so scared of having her tell us to do work. She also wrote that Charles was jealous of Diana, like we knew that, and that he was jealous of Kate when she was around on the scene. And that Kate and William were jealous of Meghan, because of course they were. Yeah, and they first realized that they were going to have competition from Meghan, or one of the first times they did realize that was in 2018 when they did that joint appearance at a Royal Foundation event.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny that everyone's like, that's when Kate and William understood that Meghan, you know, was the star and she had all this charisma and everyone was going to pay attention to her. Like, Kate and William realized it before then.
Yeah.
Kate was absolutely terrified of Meghan's beauty and charisma ever since Meghan entered the picture.
I was going to say, who wouldn't be? But, like, who wouldn't be disarmed by her? She just seems like such a warm, sweet person.
Yeah. And this is Kate's problem. And this is Kate not getting along with other women.
Well, because she was set up to compete with her sister by her mom.
I guess so, but it would have been so easy for Kate to just not have to compete with Meghan. To just, like, sit back and, you know, say, okay, well, Meghan's here. She's doing work. That's great. I get to go off to the country and raise my babies.
No. So now she's expected to step up, that she's Princess of Wales. And we got a new portrait of Charles, Camilla, William, and Kate. And it was taken at a diplomatic reception the day before Queen Elizabeth's funeral. And it's like an official portrait. So they're all smiling, wearing black at like a funeral thing. Like, what is up with this?
Yeah, the vibe is off. I mean, but the vibe was off the entire mourning period. Charles looked like a new man. He was so happy that his mother was dead. William and Kate were hee-hawing their way through events during the mourning period. Like, Kate looked like she just had a facial. She was glowing.
She's rubbing the Queen's pearls on her face. Bathing in diamonds.
Well, and the fact that she ran over and, like, grabbed a bunch of Royal Collection jewels the second the Queen died is also a pretty
telling,
grotesque look.
She has plenty of jewelry on her own. She doesn't need to go wearing the Queen's jewelry. And it wasn't like an homage. Like, the brooch would have been a homage, right? But it was
that
all
big
the
Christmas
jewelry.
tree.
Yeah. Like, wearing something the Queen gave her would have been like, oh, that's nice, you know. It was all the jewelry.
Well, like, Meghan wore a very delicate pair of earrings that the Queen had given her. And I thought that was lovely and appropriate. Yeah. Kate wore a big Christmas tree brooch that had no association with anything. It just once belonged to the Queen.
Oh, I thought the Queen gave it to her. I didn't know.
No.
That's different.
And she was wearing all of the Queen's pearls and diamonds and, oh, God. Tacky.
Yeah.
And that's what the portrait was. It was just tacky.
Yeah.
Like, these 4 people who were supposed to be mourning, about to bury the Queen, and they're just smiling and looking happy and having the best time of their lives.
So we got new photos of Meghan and Harry, too, like kind of official photos. They were taken at the One Young World Summit before the Queen passed, and that was by their friend Misan Harriman, who did their pregnancy announcement photos. And they look really lovely. You know, they just look peaceful, happy. And then there's a big backlash to them actually releasing their own photo because, you know, the Windsors did it before.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Because it was so obvious that the photos of Meghan and Harry outshone the drab 4. And their, you know, mourning attire looking like tacky bitches.
Yeah, tacky bitches.
And there's Meghan and Harry with their very natural beauty and charisma, and the camera loves both of them. And yeah, it was just nice.
Yeah, there's no competition ever.
Of course the British media freaked out because they freak out over literally anything Meghan and Harry do.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we're hearing that Charles wants to stop Harry's memoir because the palace is really worried about what will be in it, and this has been a common refrain from them.
Yeah, this has been the past year of Charles banging his head against the wall about Harry's memoir. You know, royal sources just continuously saying, oh, Charles is worried that this too will end up in Harry's memoir. But this most recent story from the Telegraph was that Charles is already lawyering up and contacting his lawyers and asking what can be done and whether or not, you know, British lawyers could somehow shut down a book published in America, basically. And of course the answer is no.
And they kind of answered it in their own Telegraph article too. They're like, probably nothing will happen, but they're going to try.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with Harry and Meghan's Netflix deal. Like, I don't know exactly what the plan is for their docuseries about themselves and, you know, Archewell and whatever. If it's coming out later this year, that's great. But I don't think palace sources actually know.
No, they don't.
Those same palace sources are the ones being quoted in Page 6 and the Telegraph and wherever else. It's just the Windsors creating all of this chaos over Harry and Meghan's Hollywood projects.
Yeah, and they've been doing that for some time. So let's talk about the Danish royals. Last week, we talked about Queen Margrethe with taking away the HRH and Prince and Princess titles from her 4 grandchildren from her younger son, Prince Joachim. And then we heard the mothers of the children say that they were upset. And then this week, more people were talking. Like, a lot of pile-ons happened.
So, over the weekend, Joachim and Marie, his second wife, they sat down and gave another interview. And they said that their relationship with Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary is quote-unquote complicated. I mean, they just sounded very hurt. And people who were listening to it were like, wow, they are super emotional about this.
Yeah.
And then after that, like, sit-down interview with the two of them, after that, the Queen issued that statement on, I think, Monday or Tuesday, basically giving the non-apology, but it was a genuine apology. She did express regret over how she did it, how she yanked the titles.
And Prince Nikolai, the oldest son, so there's 4 children, they're age 10 to 23, he said he was shocked, that he's confused and saddened. And they all said they only heard about it 5 days before it was announced to the public.
Yeah, and I've been theorizing that a lot of different things were on the table. I think Joaquin probably knew that the titles were going to be pulled at some point. he probably thought the announcement would come that we will eventually pull the children's titles when they get to a certain age.
Yeah.
Something like that. He didn't expect it to be like, all right, end of the year, they're not going to be princes and princesses anymore.
So it happened faster than they expected.
Exactly.
So we talked about the royals on Zoom, and this is Zakia, Amira, and Karen.
The Danish queen, she had to come out with a statement because she was getting so much.
She's like, sorry, but not that sorry.
Yeah. Sorry I hurt your feelings, but still not changing my mind.
Sorry you feel that way. Sorry you're offended.
Right.
Like, my kids are being bullied. I'm like, come on, y'all.
I don't think they understand what that word means. The way she handled it was shitty, but also I'm like, really? Stop being dramatic.
It's kind of over the top.
So yeah, the whole thing, the daughter's being bullied because she's not a princess anymore. I'm like, come on, that's kind of silly. But
you never know. They might be exaggerating it. They might be underplaying it.
Yeah, that's true. But kids can be nasty.
Yeah, and Joachim and Maria have been in France for the past 2 or 3 years now. They've been living there. So who knows what the French children are saying to them and like what the situation is there. I feel like the estrangement between Joachim's family and the larger royal family is a lot bigger than just a matter of the kids' titles.
Yeah, maybe that's why they moved to France too.
Well, yeah, and that was a lot more complicated as I'm starting to like read about and try to figure out what exactly happened there. He had a stroke.
Oh, really? He's young.
Yeah, he went to Paris for like a military posting, basically. And then he had a stroke in Paris, and then he and Marie decided to just stay. And so he works at the embassy, the Danish embassy in Paris.
Wow.
It doesn't look like he's going to be going back to Denmark anytime soon.
All right, let's talk about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. So we last talked about them in episode 132, and that was when the redacted FBI report came out about what happened on the plane in 2016.
September 2016.
So back then we had really disturbing details about it, but it turns out it's worse. So Angelina Jolie revealed the details in a cross complaint to Brad Pitt's objection about her selling her half of the Chateau Miraval wine business. And in the cross complaint, she reveals that he choked one of their children, that he poured beer and wine on the children. We'd previously heard he poured beer on her, and that he hit one of the children in the face.
Yeah. When she walked out of the bathroom, the plane bathroom, and the kids were crying and asking her how she was because he had just shoved her against the wall and whatever. So she came out of the bathroom and it was basically a melee. That's how she's describing it. It was like he charged at the kids. She was trying to like hold him back. He threw her against the chairs, and then he started fighting with the kids, like physically assaulting the kids.
It took her years of legal harassment from Brad to come out with this. Like, you linked the legal documents in your story today, and I'll link that story in this post. And she gave him so many chances.
Exactly.
To both keep this quiet and to sell her half of Miraval to him. And she would have made like over $10 million less if she sold it to him instead of Stoli, who she eventually sold it to.
Right. And even in the timeline that she lays out of just recent history of attempting to sell her half of Miraval and attempting to negotiate with Brad over the sale and over everything. And she's pointing out the timeline of their custodial dispute. And I was like, holy shit, he was just trying to financially abuse her, emotionally abuse her 10 different ways.
She gave him so many chances.
Yeah, she did.
And they almost had a deal worked out, but then he wanted her to sign an NDA about his physical abuse of her and the children, and she wouldn't.
Right. And then he kept on ignoring her when she would say, let's make a deal about this, or her representatives or her lawyers were calling him and saying like, let's come back to the table. Let's negotiate further. And he would just ignore them. And then he gets super mad when she just steps away and says, I have no obligation to sell my half to you. I can sell it to whoever I want.
And now he's hitting back via TMZ and trying to act like everything she's saying is not true and it was investigated. She's not going to lie on legal documents. He isn't such a terrible, abusive asshole.
Yeah. And she makes it clear. I read the entire document too. She makes it clear that she has tons of receipts. Mm. Going back to when they originally bought Miraval, she has those receipts. And she had, lawyers looking over everything. She had her business manager looking over everything.
The whole crux of it was like, he said, oh, we agreed that she never was going to sell it.
Oh, she's so mad about that. That part is a little bit funny where she kept on sarcastically referencing this secret agreement.
Yeah. And they do have emails from his lawyer saying that he said they never had to reach that agreement or whatever.
Uh-huh. We always knew that Brad's lawsuit against her over Miraval was bullshit. I can't believe that he wanted it to blow back in his face that way. Is he that stupid?
Such a dumbass.
Yeah, so she sold Nouvelle to Stoli, or the subsidiary of Stoli. And what's really interesting about that, too, is that now Stoli has her back.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Stoli and the Stoli subsidiary, they're suing Brad because Brad is trying to do to them what he did to Angelina, which is cut them out of the business.
Yeah.
And so they're suing him. There have been raids on Miraval, and they're pouring through all of his business records and how much money he's mismanaged, and it's chaos. He's going to end up not owning anything of Miraval.
Good. I hope he gets his ass handed to him.
Me too.
All right, so we talked about this on Zoom, and this is Zakiya, Amira, and Karen.
In TMZ doing their usual backing the abusive, toxic man and trying to side with him and put it on her, which I don't think is going to work as much as it did with Amber. They'll try it, but I don't think they will be as successful with Angelina Jolie because she has such a long-standing reputation with the UN, politics, raising her kid. She just has so much goodwill out there. They're not going to do what they did to Amber Heard with her. They'll try it. But
they're going to try, but I don't think I agree. I don't think it's going to work. I think it will work with some, but I don't think it's going to work to the extent that they were able to make it work with Amber. Just like somebody posted on Twitter, he was like, well, Brad elevated Angelina's star status. I said, excuse you?
The other way around.
The other way around, boo. I said she was an Academy Award winner when they met. What are you talking about?
It's just like the whole thing with Gisele and Tom Brady. She doesn't need his money.
She's richer than him. A lot of people don't know that. I'm like, she's richer than him and always has been.
She's still an in-demand model.
Well, she's known around the world. Tom Brady isn't. He's big here. That's it. For American football, not around the world.
So that's a good transition into talking about Tom Brady and Gisele Bundchen, because she doesn't need him either. It's a different situation, of course, much different, hopefully. But it's one of the most interesting divorces that we've covered because she's been so open about it.
Yeah, and it's been very plain what she's doing, and I think that was really smart. She's not hiding. She's not saying, please give me my privacy. I think she's leaking some of it to Page Six. I think Tom is leaking some stuff to Page Six. Both of them are being very clear about, we're having problems. There is an estrangement. Gisele has moved out. Either we're going to work through this or we're not. I really admire both of them a little bit for how open they're being about their problems.
Yeah, they know what they are. And you covered her Elle interview where she just said she wants to get back to work and he has to follow his joy too.
Yeah, and she sounded so over it. But I love the timing of the Elle interview. So it came out in mid-September. And so we'd already heard about 2 weeks of separation stuff and they're having real problems and she moved out. So we'd been hearing that for a while. And then Gisele comes out on the cover of Elle and she's just breezy and talking about what she's going to accomplish in her 40s. And I hope that that's the new trend. It's not, post-divorce, woe is me, he treated me like shit. It's pre-divorce, I'm over his ass. I'm looking to do me now.
Yeah, and that's admirable to hear that from a celebrity.
It is.
Sometimes they blow smoke, like Gwyneth did when she invented that new word for what they were doing, you know, conscious uncoupling or whatever. Yeah. But they're both being upfront. Or she is, mostly.
Yeah, and I've been pleasantly surprised by how much I like her moves, and I've also been really surprised by how much support she's getting. Of, like, yeah, it must really suck that Gisele put her career on hold for more than a decade to take care of Tom's children. And she moved to Boston for him, and she did all of this shit for him, and she organized his life for him. And she was the supportive wife, and now she's ready to move on because he doesn't appreciate it.
Yeah, and he's not honoring the agreement they made about it, too, that he was going to retire.
Exactly.
And she's been super open about him getting concussions and the NFL covering it up, too.
And I think that that's also a huge part of it. She's just worried about his health.
Yeah.
He's 45 years old. He doesn't need to be on the fucking football field anymore.
And that story that you covered today where he's like, he's really attentive to his kids in the off season.
What the fuck? He thought that was like a big point that he was making.
No, it's not. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week.
So I wrote this kind of, I don't know, dumb, funny story about how the James Bond producers were talking about what they're looking for in the next James Bond.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's not going to be someone really young. It's not going to be Generation Z. It's probably going to be someone in his 30s or 40s, a millennial. People really liked that story. I guess everyone likes to talk about who the next Bond should be. And Emmy wrote, said it before, I'll say it again, Dev Patel. But I guess he's too young then, which I don't get. Write it into the story. Just make it work.
He would be an awesome Bond. And he's hot, too.
I agree. He's 32, so he is technically a millennial.
Yeah.
And he can play older.
Yeah, he could play older.
He could play older. He's real tall. He's handsome. He's got a lovely accent. I could buy Dev as Bond.
I would like him, too.
He can wear a suit.
He can. I think Idris Elba is a little old.
Yeah, he is.
To be Bond.
If they had gotten him 10 years ago, it would have been great. But I understand why Daniel Craig was their guy in, like, whenever it was, 2005.
I never got him. He just seems too surly and short for me. It's not about him being short, because, like, Tom Holland is lovely, you know? There's something, I don't know. He never did it for me.
Oh, he did it for me. I think Daniel Craig is real sexy.
Oh, you like that type. You like the grumpy type.
Yeah, I like grumpy and surly.
Yeah.
Now, do I think his Bond could have been more debonair? Yeah, for sure.
It's like a sandpaper Bond.
Yeah.
Not smooth.
Yeah, he is like working class Street Fighter Bond.
Yeah, I like how you worded that in the post.
He should have been more like, oh, I went to Eton, you know.
Yeah. Or like in between those two.
Yeah.
So my comment of the week, I just picked out what you were talking about, Gisele Bundchen, because I forgot to do it. But it's from Girl Ninja, and it's on the post where Naomi Watts is talking about menopause. And she wrote, it's crazy and amazing that Naomi is talking about menopause brain fog at 54 and Hilary Swank is having twins at 48. Women are incredible.
Yeah.
We are.
I don't have menopause brain fog. I'm not in menopause yet.
I am. I'm having all sorts of weird shit like anxiety and I can't sleep, trying to meditate and that's helping. And I was on like hormone replacement stuff and it was making me crazy. So I had to go off of that. It's a lot. You really do feel it.
Mostly I just worry about my arthritis. That's my age.
I could never imagine having kids at this point. Like a dog is plenty. That's a lot. Like having kids at late 40s. Whew,
yeah.
No.
When I got the kitten, I was like, how much work is one fucking cat?
Yeah. versus a baby. Oh, at least with pets, you can leave them alone and just be like, okay, you go in that room for like a few hours. I'm going to ignore you.
Yeah, you can leave the house for a few hours with an animal. You can't with a baby.
No, unless you get a babysitter, of course. But. All right. Well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.